In this next series of lectures, we're going to be seeing a set of case studies that look at particular data center outages that happened over the last several years, and also the causes for these outages. So just to start with, here's a simple quiz question for you to think about. This is not an automated quiz, but something for you to think about. Here are some possibly common causes of data center outages. When I say data center outage, I mean something like Facebook goes offline for several hours, or Amazon Web Services goes offline for several days, or some website goes offline for a significant period of time. When such an outage happens, clearly something might be happening at a data center. Why do you think a data center might go out? One cause might be power outage. Maybe they forgot to pay their bills. Second cause might be overheating. Maybe some of the servers are working too hard and they caused too much of a temperature rise, and that caused the data center to shut down. The third cause may be human error. Maybe someone committed a mistake. Fire is, of course, something that always could take data center down. And finally, you can have denial of service attacks, which are explicit malicious attacks by humans or bots on data centers. Which of these do you think is the most frequent? So take a pick, and now the answer is human error. In fact, it turns out that 70% of data center outages are caused, at least the initial cause is because of human error. Human error is not the only factor that comes into play, though. Power outage, overheating, fire, and a host of other reasons also come into play. But typically, the outage is triggered by a human error, but there are always other factors that keep the outage going, as you will see as we go along. To give you an example of human error being responsible for outages, here are some examples that I've taken from a website called availabilitydigest.com. One example was that a system operator mistakenly deleted the $38 billion Alaska Permanent Fund database and then also deleted its backup. This resulted in the entire database being gone. Right? So this is clearly a human error. The second example was when a maintenance contractor's mistake shut down the Oakland Air Traffic Control Center. Third example was a state of Virginia technician pulled the wrong controller and crashed a redundant SAN, a storage area network, that had already suffered a controller failure. Okay, so this is an example of an outage that started with a human error, that was triggered by a human error, but there were other cascading effects such as an already existing controller failure that caused the outage to become worse. And finally, another example was a technician with the DBS Bank made an unauthorized repair on a redundant storage area network and took down both sides. There are many more examples on this website, and here are some more. I don't want to go through all of these. I just want to point out one of them. You can pause the video at this point and read the examples. But one of them that is really useful here is this one highlighted in orange font. Siren noise damaged several disks, including the virtual backup disks. It's somewhat less well known that noise affects the performance of disks. There are some videos on YouTube that you can find that show this, but essentially because hard disks involve very precise movements by the head of the hard disk over the platter, the magnetic platter, noise can affect these precise movements and can affect the performance and the bandwidth, the throughput of these hard disks as well. They can also cause hard disks to crash, or rather the heads to crash, and the entire hard disk may result in lost data. So there are many more examples such as this, and what we want to be doing is picking a few of these examples, major outages, and studying them in detail. Okay, so why do we want to study these outages at all? Well, the first reason is because they're sort of fun to study. Schadenfreude is an English word originally from German that says that we take pleasure in the misery of others. That's not really our goal here. Our main goal here is to learn lessons, to study these outages as evidence of what could go wrong, and to draw conclusions about how we can avoid such outages. Okay, in general, we want to be able to learn about the actual behavior of systems in the real world, in the wild. After this course, you might write code for many different cloud computing systems. Your code is going to run on servers and data centers, and it's better for you to know what might go wrong with these data center deployments so that you can prepare ahead of time in terms of how your service runs. Okay, so this will hopefully help us design better systems in the future. Once again, the goal of this series of lectures is not to say that some companies are worse than others. It is not to point fingers. Everyone suffers outages. As we know in this course, failures are the norm rather than the exception. In fact, it turns out that the examples that we'll see for the most part are companies that responded very well to outages. When the outages, the inevitable outages did happen, the companies were very transparent and very open and very honest with their customers and users. And in fact, after the outages were resolved, the companies wrote post-mortem reports that analyzed the outage. And in fact, all the information you see here is open information that is available on the web from these post-mortem reports. Okay, so this goes along with the adage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Okay, so we'll see a few case studies of outages and then we'll learn lessons from them.